Hi, everybody. So I actually joined I was in the Global Innovation Forum 3 or 4 years ago. That was my first time on a panel, and actually great to come back and see how this conference has evolved. And actually, all the speakers I've seen so far have been great, and the audience. So hopefully I can add some more value for you guys. And what I'm going to talk about today is actually how to be a rock star entrepreneur. I've been very passionate about this area, working in innovation the last 10 years in some of the biggest companies in the world. And having innovation in my title, at the beginning I used to feel like it's cool, you know, having innovation in my title sounds really good. I work in innovation, sounds good. But actually, over time, I'm actually starting to push. I want to change my title. I don't want to have innovation anymore. I want to be called an entrepreneur. And I'll explain why. And I think everybody here in the audience that is coming from a big company is either an entrepreneur or hoping to become an entrepreneur. And I think this is actually quite a fascinating area. We hear a lot about entrepreneurship. So everybody wants to be today a founder of a cool startup. Entrepreneurship is still not as considered as cool, but I actually think it's cool, and I think it's actually quite difficult. So I'll explain to you a bit kind of what I learned in that journey and what I think is kind of the success factors to do this really well. But the first thing is about Mondelez. People never know what it is. It sounds like a funny name. It is a funny name. It's a new company. Existed in 2012. It's a spin-off out of Kraft Foods. It used to be the second biggest food company at the time. We took out the snacking business out, and we're the biggest chocolate company in the world with brands such as Milka, Cadbury, that everybody here lives in the UK knows, Green and Black's, Toblerone. And then on the biscuits and cookie side, we have brands such as Tak and Belvita and Oreo. So a lot of things you guys all eat, hopefully. And first of all, what is my job? Like, what do I get paid for? So I actually think I have the best job in the world because I work on chocolate. So I heard here a lot of folks, you know, great speakers yesterday, people from Walmart, H&M, you know, Lego. Lego's a tough competitor for us. But at the end of the day, everybody loves chocolate. Everybody has an opinion about chocolate, and everybody wants to tell you what they think about chocolate. So I have 3 small kids. I'll talk about them later on. I go to my daughter's school. She's 7 years old. I don't know if you heard about it. A year ago, Mondelez, we had somebody that did a big mistake and decided to change the Toblerone peaks. Have you guys heard about that? Yeah, okay. Just that you guys know, that was before the elections in the US. At that day, that Trump was every day the #1 news item, and he still is, unfortunately, a year after. At that time, at that day that the Toblerone peak was changed and it came out of the media, actually Toblerone was the #1 item searched internationally more than Trump, okay? Just to show you how passionate people are about chocolate. Now, I originally used to work in Pepsi in the US, then from Mondelez in Switzerland. A year ago, I moved to Tel Aviv. So I go to my daughter's school. She's 7 years old. I enter the school and have 5 kids, super angry, coming to me and saying, "What have you done to Toblerone? Gil, what have you done? You're Ella's father. How dare you do it?" Now, I had to explain it to somebody else, a different team. They didn't care. And I asked him, he says, "How the hell? I live in Israel, in a small village outside of Tel Aviv. 7-year-old kids that I didn't even know they know to read, actually know about the fact that we changed the peak of Toblerone." So that's just to show you how passionate consumers are about chocolate. Any age, and they always want to tell you, even people here in the conference are complaining for me that we are changing the taste of Cadbury, etc. Everybody has an opinion about chocolate, and it's good. The second thing, our offices, we have offices around the world. We still use the original Cadbury that came from Bourneville. That's where we have our chocolate R&D facility. We have a beautiful chocolate lab that's down there in the bottom with chocolatiers that do amazing things. And we still today cherish that heritage of Cadbury. And, you know, for some of you that you know, probably the English folks know that actually Willy Wonka was written by somebody that lived in Bourneville and grew up on the story of Cadbury. The last thing is my job. My job is I work with a team of folks that we do fun stuff. We basically launch new chocolates around the world. We took Milka to China last year. We just entered the Chinese market. Actually, in the US, we took Green and Black's, the beloved UK brand, into the US recently. We did some changes to it. And we've actually brought Oreo into chocolate. Consumers love Oreo. Now they have it together with chocolate. We've done many other things in emerging markets, and a lot of them succeed and a lot of them fail. But we're going to talk a bit kind of what we learned from that. So the context about the food industry, because this is important, I'll explain to you why entrepreneurship is so important. The food industry, for those of you that don't work in it, it's going through huge changes. In the past, the food industry, like in this image, was 5, 6 big companies like ourselves that have been acquiring and growing and pretty much controlling the market. That has been changing with this. In the last few years, you have a proliferation of smaller brands that are showing up across every category: chocolate, biscuits, gum and candy, dairy, meat. I mean, today you can actually have a fantastic burger that is not made out of meat. I don't know, Impossible Burgers, and I don't know if you guys heard about that. They're fantastic. I was in Chicago last week, tasted one of them. The thing tastes like meat, looked like meat, but there's no meat. So you have a lot of these things, and they're all coming from smaller companies, not from the big guys like us. And that's been shifting, and actually, these guys have done a fantastic job stealing share in sales from the bigger guys. So just as a kind of an anecdote, in the last 5 years in the US, smaller food brands have taken $18 billion of market share from the big guys. Okay? This is huge. Now, you need to understand, this makes our lives harder because we have a playbook, and I'll talk about the playbook. We all worked, in the food industry. We came from one company. I worked in Pepsi. We moved to another. It's quite similar. We were all trained the same way. We have the same playbook. We use the same training. We use the same mindset. And we were trained. We have 1 or 2 big competitors in our category. We every year fight about 1 share or 2 shares. It's against Ferrero, against Mars. Suddenly we have a so-called enemy that is faceless. It's hundreds of little companies. They make $10 million, $20 million, 30, 40. They don't even have offices, many of them. It's like a guy sitting in a garage and through his internet kind of doing some ads and some crazy YouTube films and selling only on Amazon. So actually, our old playbook is not trained to compete against these guys. Now, what has shifted and made these guys so successful in the last few years? It's a few things. One is there are much more cheaper ways to do marketing today than in the past. In the past, it was TV advertising. I work a lot with our India business. And I launched their premium brand a few years ago for chocolate. In India, in the marketing space, is still, now it's changing also, but this was 3 years ago. It was still like, it used to be in Europe or in the US like 10, 15 years ago. You need to have a TV ad, and only the big guys can do a TV ad. But actually, in the rest of the world, you don't need TV ads. You can actually do Facebook. You can do YouTube clips. You can do a lot of things for hardly any money, and these things actually can break through the clutter even better than some of the old-fashioned marketing. The second thing is syncing distribution costs. We used to live in this world. It was very good for us, and we enjoyed it. I won't lie about that we basically owned the shelves. We would go to the supermarket retailer. We would pay slotting fees. Each category would have a category captain, and that captain would work with the retailer, and guess what? Nobody can come in. It's a closed shelf. Nobody can enter. So you're a great startup. You have a great chocolate bar. You can't distribute. Suddenly today, you have all these great things. You can go directly to Amazon. We heard yesterday that Indiegogo and these guys can offer you to actually launch stuff. And actually, some brands do such a good job there that actually, as you heard yesterday, the retailers come and offer them, please come. We want to put you on shelf. So that has changed fundamentally. The last 2 things, and this is probably the bigger one, is consumers are voting with their wallets, feet, and their hands. They are asking for a change. They want authentic brands. They want brands that are clean label. They want brands that have a story with a person behind them. They want that. And entrepreneurial brands are better set to have that story today. And the last thing, today you can have a food company that doesn't do anything in-house. It does marketing externally. It outsources the manufacturing. It outsources the sales. You can do it from your bedroom. And a great example is that brand there on the right-hand side. It's called RX Bar. I don't know if you guys heard about it. It's from Chicago. It's 2 guys. They're 25 years old. They have worked in a different industry. They created a new snack bar. It's a protein bar. Actually, they changed their packaging. It's a very simple packaging that says, it has this, this, and this. No BS means no bullshit. That's it. They sold it through gyms and Amazon. They started this 4 years ago, and they sold it a month ago to Kellogg's for $600 million, okay? This is a damn protein bar, nothing more. But they have done, and they built a business from scratch in 4 years. You have other guys like Chobani that basically took the yogurt category. That's a Turkish immigrant that moved to the US, and I don't know if any of you have ever tasted an American yogurt. They don't taste good. They're very watery. They're like water. They don't have any taste. Sorry for any of the Americans in the room. He basically came. He brought what a lot of people know from Europe and the Middle East, textures that are much thicker. That's what they call the Greek yogurt, and today he is the biggest player in yogurt. And obviously you guys all know Grace from the UK and Kind bars that actually started a lot through Starbucks and Amazon. Now this is true also, so you're saying, okay, you're talking about the food industry, our industry is different. No, that's not true. All the industries are changing, and the best way to look at this is this chart, basically showing that the average company span across industries is getting shorter and shorter. We were talking in the 1960s, average company, basically S&P 500 companies, were surviving around 60 years. Today, we're in the spectrum of 10 to 15 years. So most companies are not going to exist in 10 to 15 years from today across industries. And that chart is going down and down. One of the reasons, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons is innovation. Most of these companies, that a lot of them have been focused on cost cutting in the last few years, including the food industry and other industries, are actually not growing. Now, there's a variety of reasons. And for those who don't, you know, Tom Fishburne, he's an ex-marketeer that does the best cartoons of the marketing industry and basically laughs at everything we do, and he does that rightfully. And one of the things he talks about on the left-hand side is basically that we're experts in what I call the salami effect of innovation. Okay, we work on innovation. It's a fantastic idea. We come to our senior leaders. I work in a global team, so I have 4 different presidents from different regions. I go to the European president. He tells me, Gil, I like the idea, but you know, your package is red. I like blue. Do it blue. It's like, okay, I'll change it to blue. Then I go to the Asia Pacific president. He tells me, Gil, your packaging is red. I actually like green. Can you do it green? I'm like, okay, I have green and blue. What do? I just make orange, okay? So I kind of try to make everybody happy. Now, what do I talk about? The salami effect is basically you get so much feedback, so many stakeholders, everybody gives you a point, and I'm not even going into the legal issues and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you have this fantastic idea, and you end up with this shitty little idea that basically tries to be the lowest denominator that makes everybody happy. That's very, very true. I'm sure everybody that works in innovation, a big corporate, you guys would admit this is true. The second thing is, pretty much is, you know, this typical, you know, let's just pick the innovative idea that has the greatest potential to keep things exactly the way they are, right? Like, we don't really want to change anything. Now, a lot of this has to do with the people we have in the organization and actually the mindset. And that's where the intrapreneurs come into place. So let's talk about how do you become an entrepreneur, and especially a rock star one. So first of all, let's define what it is. An intrapreneur, which is the term that we're all very familiar, it's a person that organizes and manages his or her business, usually with a lot of risk. Intrapreneur, I didn't make up these definitions. They're all approved by all kind of vocabularies. Is a person inside a large organization, okay? Focus on large, who takes risks to solve problems and grow business. They have to have 2 things, entrepreneurial skills and managerial skills. This is very, very important within the confines of an organization. This is important. That's where I actually believe that entrepreneurship, although you have resources and you have money and you're a big company and it's true and you get a paycheck, all of that is true. Actually, you have 2 skill sets you need to have. You need to be like an entrepreneur, and you need to know how to work in a big company, which all the guys that work in big companies in innovation know that's damn tough. The word was coined in 1976 by a couple that were researchers in this field. There's actually a school for entrepreneurs that does a conference even in Sweden from 1985, and actually it's officially a word in the American dictionary since 1992. So let's talk about what do you need to do to become a rock star entrepreneur. Now, I'm talking today about 7 things. These are things that I've seen in the last 10 years I've been doing innovation across a few companies and my colleagues, and also based on some research of what I believe are the 7 things you need. The first one is, anybody knows who these guys are? Yeah, A-Team. I used to love that. That used to be my favorite TV show when I was a kid. It was always on Saturday night. I really kind of waited for it. I always wanted to be Mr. T. Never worked out. But I love the A-Team. Now, the A-Team is a group of bandits. Each of them has a very strong personality. If it's Face, Hannibal, Mr. T, they're all very, very different. But they have a few things in common. One is they're very strong personalities. They're very different. And interestingly enough, they're each an expert in their field, but they have always a broad perspective and kind of expertise. They're able to bring a few domains. And that's what I try to do in our teams when we do innovation. I always have a strong preference to hire in our teams what is called the T-shaped. So basically in kind of HR language, there's T-shaped and I-shaped. I-shaped people are basically people that are skill experts in one thing. This is the top-notch scientist. He's a world-renowned that field, and that's what he knows to do. Don't talk with him about anything else. T-shaped, yes, they come from one discipline. They studied something, but actually they have a very broad spectrum of expertise, and they're quite good. They're not an expert in one thing, but actually they can synthesize quite a lot of things together. Those are the kind of people that I want on my team. Actually, IDEO, the same. A lot of the design thinking firms that like to hire the same kind of people. The second thing is, always on my team, I prefer to either, if it's people that work for me or it's the cross-functional team members, I always choose the most junior, least experienced people They don't have anything to lose and don't have any fear. And I've created over the years a bunch of people I work with that evolved. They evolved with me, and we just go from one project to another. We get promoted. We go on working together. We always want to work together, and we've done it, and we've done it several times in the past. And actually, the fact that they're a junior is important for me. It's easier to shape them. It's easier, and they don't have the fear factor that a lot of the guys that have been forever in the company have. Because at the end of the day, remember, you're working in a big company. You need not to upset too many people. You're even hoping one day to get promoted. It's not so good to do too many crazy things. And a lot of people have a fear factor about that. The last thing is, even if you have an A-team, and even if you're going to do crazy things, and I'm going to talk about it in a second, maybe even getting fired, you do need to have a corporate sponsor. Could be official, not official. You need one guy or lady that loves what you guys are doing, and they're going to support you when you really screw up or when you do something really crazy. The next thing is be childlike, curious, and asking why the whole time. So these are my kids. I have 3 kids. Louisa, she had the blonde little girl. She's 2 years old. That's my son, Noah. He is not going to be happy. I showed a presentation with him in underwear in front of 100 people. So let's keep this between us. This is his, I think it's his fireman underwear. So we'll keep that as a secret. And that's my 7-year-old daughter, Ella. Now, why am I talking about my 3 kids? I learned a lot from them constantly. Why? They ask me the whole time why on everything. They ask me, Daddy, why is the sky blue? I have no idea. But I go on and try to research and find. My son Noah loves to do Lego, and the whole time he's asking, why do I need to follow the instructions? Which actually is a good question. Now, the most interesting thing just happened a week ago. So we moved to Tel Aviv a year ago. I'm originally from there, not lived there for 12 years. And we had guests coming from Germany. We took them to the museum, and there was this poster here from Israel. It's an old poster. And we're all debating a strange poster showing the beach line of Tel Aviv with a religious man, and he's with what is called a shofar in his clothes. We're talking about all these strange things. I've seen this picture many times. My son is looking. He's silent. After 10 minutes we're talking, he tells, Daddy, why does he wear these old, ugly sandals? Now, you guys can hardly see them. Now, I have never even looked at the bottom of the picture. I never even cared or noticed what the guy is wearing or not. I never thought about it. But that's where my son was looking. Now, I'm saying this. Now, it's not important really what he's wearing. But the fact is that my son was looking at this picture completely different than all of us. We were focused on the whole top end and this old guy and the beach line. Nobody even cared what if he has shoes, not shoes. And kids look at the world in a different way. That's the same way you need to do this in innovation, and you need constantly to question things, especially in a big company. You come, and the whole day they tell you, that's the way we do things. That's, I came to chocolate. They told me consumers only want chocolate for fun. Anecdote, topic done. No more conversation. I want to see the data. I want to understand. Maybe the consumers want chocolate also for other reasons. So you need to question everything you do if you're an entrepreneur, especially in a big company. The next one, and this was talked a lot about, is experiment and prototype. And I like the kind of following this cycle. It's slightly different than, it's based on the lean startup, but it's build, learn, pivot in parentheses, because hopefully you don't need to pivot, and scale. It's very similar to the lean startup. I mean, a lot of you are familiar with the lean startup. I think it's a fantastic book, a fantastic philosophy. By the way, Eric Ries has just launched a new book. I didn't get it yet, 2 weeks ago, taking the fundamentals of lean startups into corporates. So that's immediately into the camp of entrepreneurship. I didn't read it yet, but that's one of the first books I want to get. And prototyping is important, even in our food industry. When I came to the company, we used to have these meetings, and we would have agencies or internal people coming with these concepts and these PowerPoints. And I'm like, guys, can I please see the thing? Can I please taste it? Doesn't matter if it's not ready. This is food. How complicated is it to mock up a quick chocolate? We have huge labs. We have 200 people working in R&D. Can't we just put something on the table we can comment on? Now, actually, interestingly enough, people eat food in their eyes, okay? Actually, one of the most common thing, if you look on social media, everybody shows you what they're eating. I go to Facebook, I need to see what all my friends had for dinner. Why do I care what they had for dinner? People love actually taking picture of their food. Actually, a very popular hashtag is called food porn. Guys, don't get overexcited. We're not talking about porn, we're talking about food porn. Food porn is a very popular hashtag. I think till today there were like 300 million times it was used, which is basically taking photography of what you eat. Consumers love doing it. So if we're in the business of creating innovation for food or whatever industry you are, prototype the damn thing. Bring it to the table, taste it, eat it, look at it. Now, I know certain industries are difficult. I spoke with a gentleman that works in the pharma industry. Yeah, that's harder, I agree. So we need to think about creative ways, but there has to be a way to move away from a PowerPoint slide to actually prototype things. Now, the other thing is experimentation has been known that you need, the more you're experimenting, the higher chance you're going to succeed. I mean, we all know the stories about Dyson that he did thousands of times until he got the right vacuum cleaner, or Edison until he got the right bulbs. It takes time. You need to prototype. You're not going to launch the best new thing on earth through a PowerPoint. You're not. This is my favorite. I know this is Tom's favorite. We all have in our team this T-shirt. It's called Fire Me Please. It's a true story. If you work in innovation or as an entrepreneur in a company and you're not on the edge of getting fired once or twice per year, you are failing in your job. You are a failure. You are a failure. I really mean it. Innovation and entrepreneurship in a big company is not for the light-hearted people and not for people that are looking for a long-term career and retire in the company they joined. It's not. Go and work somewhere else, work in accounting, finance, procurement, much better places. Innovation in a big company, your role, you are paid to push the boundaries of the company. You're not stupid. You're not going to do crazy things for the purpose of doing crazy things. But if you are pushing the company and pushing the boundaries, you are at risk and getting fired. And actually, our team, I always tell it to my team, we each have this T-shirt. I tell them we should be prepared to wear it twice a year. By the way, the magical thing about it, if you wear it, nobody fires you, you know? So that's the best thing about this T-shirt. So you should screw up, immediately go to your desk, put the T-shirt. Who's going to fire somebody walking around the halls of a big corporate with "Fire me, please"? I mean, that's not going to happen, right? So this is actually the biggest shield we have from getting fired. And we love this. And I really believe in this. I mean, not for the purpose of getting fired. I'm not encouraging anybody to be fired, really. But it's actually to bring the point that we need to push the boundaries. That's what we are paid in innovation. In other functions, you are not. But in innovation as an entrepreneur, you definitely are. And actually, you know, many people say it, and it's super true. Don't ask for permission on everything. I mean, the answer is going to be no on everything you're going to ask almost. Just go and do it. Worst case, say sorry later. I mean, that's a much better approach. Again, as long as you have good common sense and it's for the benefit of the company, of course. The next thing is about kind of seeking external inspiration and being an inspiration in your own company. This is one that I like. I know it might sound like a cliche. We all talk about it, but it's an important one. And what I mean, I work in innovation as an entrepreneur in a big company. My role is constantly to get inspired and actually to inspire back in the company. So I personally, this is just the way I do things, I dedicate one day a month that I'm not working, okay? So one day a month, I do something that is related to work, but I come to a conference like this, I go to look at stores. Every time I travel for work, I travel a lot. I always stay an extra day. We do market visits, but I want to always see the high-end stores and the low-end stores because that's where the cool stuff happens. I read a lot of magazines, and I'm interested in things that are not happening in my industry today, but they're going to influence the industry, such as blockchain, artificial intelligence. They're not really happening exactly in the food industry. They're going to start impacting 3D printing. I need to understand. I don't need to be an expert, but they're going to probably have impact on our industry. Now, I go to a lot of conferences. I don't go just for simple, pure food conferences. I go for things that can inspire me. I just was 2 weeks ago in 2 conferences, one after the other in London. It's the only food conference I go, which is called Future Food Tech, which talks about food technologies. And I'll tell you now the great idea I got of there. And then I went to a packaging conference in Chicago, and now I'm here. In this Future Food Tech, I actually found one of the best things is now in my head. These grasshoppers, okay, and crickets. I am obsessed now with grasshoppers. Why? I went to the Future Food Tech. There was a little company of 2 guys from Dallas in the US. There's this whole thing about now alternative proteins and insect proteins. Anyway, these guys, I've known about this for a long time. They gave me to taste the first snack that I ever tasted made from basically cricket protein, grasshopper protein. I was sure it's going to be disgusting. The thing tasted good, okay? And I told the guys, you know what? Let's imagine now that I come back to Mondelez and I try to push our Oreo team to launch the first cookie globally. It's going to be a one-off, limited edition of Oreo with cricket, made out of cricket powder. Now, you guys say that's disgusting. It's a bad idea. Could be it's a bad idea. I can guarantee you the amount of PR we're going to get. I know, where's the guy from Starbucks? He's not here. We are going to beat the Starbucks, what was that, unicorn frappuccino we had? They had this. Basically, Oreo with crickets? Come on, guys. Every newspaper in the world is going to talk about it. Everybody's going to try it. Either going to love it or hate it. That's great marketing. Now, that came from that conference. I never thought about it. I know if we're going to do it, I'll raise it, and probably people are going to think I'm stupid in the company, but I'll still raise it, and I asked them already to make me a mock-up, and let's see how that tastes. But that's the kind of stuff that happens from going outside of your day-to-day. I would never, ever thought about it otherwise. Speed, impatience, and early wins are your best friends in innovation and entrepreneurship. They are your best friends. You're going to have always skeptics. You're going to have always people in the organization saying, what are these guys in innovation doing? What did they launch lately? Oh, that failed, that failed. Always happens. First of all, you need to have early wins. That's the most important thing you need. You need to get something out there as fast as possible to create some internal PR and to get some internal credibility that you don't get fired so quickly and your team gets shut down. You need to do this fast. When our team was set up in 2011, in 2012, we launched something in the UK called Cadbury Dairy Milk Bubbly. For those of the Brits that lived, I don't know if you guys knew it. Bubbly was an aerated chocolate. Aerated was not new. The new thing about Bubbly was that the mold was like bubbles. Consumers loved it. We basically, within 12 months, launched it in 15 countries. Within 2 years, it was a $200 million business for us. That gave our team 3 years of quietness. Every meeting we would go, somebody was like, what are these guys in the global innovation team? We're like, bubbly, 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 bubbly. We're talking 3 years about bubbly. In the meantime, we're working on the other stuff. If we would have not had bubbly, our team would have not existed anymore. You need to have an early win. You need to be impatient. Big companies are slow, and they're going to slow you down. You need to be impatient. I'm a very friendly guy. I'm super impatient at work. I don't have patience when I go to meetings and people tell me it's going to take 2 years. I like, why? Okay, so we have a process that's called stage gate, super boring process, exists for years. All the big companies have it. It's the biggest slower of innovation in the world. Okay, so 90% of what we do should be stage gate. 10% of the big breakthrough stuff, I want it outside of stage gate. I want a bypass of stage gate. I want a process that I can skip some market research. Sorry for the market research guys, not to do all the validation of 20 bases and every senior stakeholder wants another piece of research, and we can have a single decision maker and move fast. Sometimes we're able to do that, and impatience and speed are really, really important for you. And the last one is find where you're most creative in your day-to-day, repeat that same action on a daily perspective, and record these outputs. Now, I've always known that I have some times that I'm creative and I kind of get my best ideas. I get my best ideas when I fly, when I have a shower, and I discovered in the last 7 years when I walk. So we had a president of the global chocolate team of innovation. It was an Indian, came from India, and every time we were in Zurich, we went to lunch, and after that he said, you know, Horsky, young man, come with me, let's have a walk. Like, why would I have a walk now in the middle of the day for 45 minutes? And after a while, I discovered he wants to talk about business. So I said, okay, I'll start preparing a PowerPoint. I'll start talking. He said, no, Horsky, we're talking now. Okay? Now, that was a routine. And then after a while, I told him, Bart, why are we doing these walks? He said, young man, I was not so young, but young man, I was younger than him. These are the best times for me to think, and we need to think together. And what he taught me is two things in these walks. One is actually, first of all, it's been scientifically proven that walks actually are some of the most, they're meditation, they relax you, but actually they're fantastic thinking times. A lot of people, obviously such as Steve Jobs, is a picture with his dog walking. He's still always used to make sure he walks his dog. Steve Jobs, and they say that Howard Schultz and Jack Dorsey all do walks. A lot of famous people do walks. But the second thing is actually the element of breaking through the day, having this time to think, and then actually jotting down what came out of it. And I always have my little moleskin notebook. I take it everywhere. I constantly jot down stuff, especially on flights. I then later on conferences, I look at them, and I get some good ideas out of that. So this is an important thing. The other thing that is interesting about these walks, and this has also been proven, which is very interesting, and going back to the 18 point, is it's been proven that there is actually quite a good book, I think it's called Creative Pairs or something, talking about that the best innovation and ideas and the bouncing off comes from pairs from two different people. And there's a lot of people, obviously, in the music, such as John Lennon and Paul McCartney, or if you look at Ben & Jerry's in ice cream, or even in the academia of the world, I don't know how much you guys know, but basically Daniel Kahneman that won kind of the Nobel Peace Prize from economics and one of the founders of kind of behavioral economics and psychology. Actually, he had a partner that just died earlier than him called Amos Tversky, and they used to do everything together, all their walks, all their thoughts came together from walks. So actually, there's quite a lot of power in that. And I think in the day-to-day, in the corporate time, we never have time to do these things. So these were kind of my 7 points that we repeated today, and we talked about how to be a rock star entrepreneur. They work for me. I use them on a daily basis. My team used some of them. I would encourage any of you, if you want to be an entrepreneur, feel free to use them. And I put my email also at the end of the deck, so you can email me. And we have, I think, time for a few questions if people have any.
Thank you, Gil.
Good luck. Thank you. Thank you.